Gatekeeping is not censorship, says the NPC. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious. And today, on Forbes.com, here we have this wonderful article, Gatekeeping is Not the Same as Censorship, by Caleb Litaru, who's obviously full of it. Gatekeeping is exactly the same as censorship. If you're deciding what gets to be put on the news, what people get to know, and what people don't get to see, you can control the narrative. You can control what people perceive. Right now, there are many people in the United States who believe that the majority of shootings and events and crime are committed by white people, when in reality, minorities are actually the main culprits. You can look at FBI crime statistics, you can look at actual shooting statistics. Most of them are not white. Do you see how you can control the narrative by controlling the information? Now before we take a look at this ludicrous story, my channel is completely demonetized. It is completely disabled. To help, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar. There's also PayPal and Bitcoin, and sharing the video on social media also helps. Here it says, with each new effort by social media companies to rein in the deluge of digital falsehoods, accusations pour forth that such efforts represent censorship. In reality, the two represent very different concepts, with censorship referring to the repression of ideas in alignment to political, social, or moral views, while gatekeeping, in the broadest sense, refers to efforts to maintain the quality of information published in a given venue. It's the same thing as censorship, nitwit. And you know why it's the same thing as censorship? Well, it's very simple. It's censorship because people are biased, people have their ideological beliefs, and people have their agendas. If somebody hates Trump, they're going to decide that a story about something good Trump did, about his accomplishments, is not quality information. It's bullshit to them, even if it's factually true. If someone believes that minorities need to be protected from criticism or from responsibility for their actions, they will completely ignore stories of the countless crimes by minority people and only publish stories about white people who do something bad. This is the very definition of censorship, and gatekeeping is even worse because it's often used to control the narrative. You can't bullshit me on this. We've all seen how it is. A censor prohibits discussion of topics which they disagree. A gatekeeper is viewpoint neutral, ensuring that only information that has been thoroughly vetted and verified. You know, this is the same problem that I have with the skeptic community. There will not be a lot of evidence and proof for everything that happens. Some things just happen. Sometimes you only have one source. Sometimes you don't even have a source. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean it did happen, but that's the point here. Censorship has become the new rallying call for those who oppose any effort by social media companies to curb in any way the spread of falsehoods on their platforms. Literally impossible to do that. Platforms argue they are neutral publishing mediums, merely blindly forwarding messages onward, while at the same time increasingly stepping forward to remove content that disagrees with their own views of acceptable speech and removing falsehoods. Oh, yep. You see, social media companies today are acting as both platforms and publishers. If they are platforms, that means that they are open to everyone and ensure free speech. However, since they censor and moderate content, that would make them publishers because they edit content. They choose what gets to be said and what doesn't get to be said, which means they don't have protections that they do as the fake platforms they are. So either they're publishers or they're platforms. We need them to be true platforms so everyone can have free speech. But social media companies want to have it both ways. Those goddamn bastards. Clouding the issue is that social platforms are ramping up their efforts to both enforce their acceptable speech rules, which do not compromise a form of censorship. Yeah, they do, you son of a bitch. Dude, in America where you have free speech, all speech is acceptable. And if it's not criminal, it's acceptable. These companies need to shut the fuck up about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable and what's healthy, and let people speak their minds. Let people tell the truth to power. But you fear it. You fear true information. You fear ideology that opposes your own. These social tech giants are shaking in their boots because a bunch of small nobodies are shouting loud and to the crowd. And people are listening. People are waking up. You want to tell me that this isn't censorship? Shove it up your ass. And at the same time, curate the quality of content flowing through the servers, which represents gatekeeping. Well, you must be doing a bad job, my friends. Because these websites look and smell like shit. All major social platforms define lists of ideas, narratives, viewpoints, and beliefs that run contrary to the views of the founders and the executives on the platform. That's what makes it a platform. If they silence people that don't follow their narratives, viewpoints, and views of the founders, it's not a platform. You don't have free speech. You're being violated. Your constitutional rights are being molested. Do you understand? Do you understand? Such lists are defined and redefined on a whim and primarily reflect Western neo-colonialist perspectives on how the entire world should think. It's called Baizo. Baiswa is a Chinese epithet meaning naive Western educated person who advocates for peace and equality only to satisfy their own feeling of moral superiority. Baiswa only cares about topics such as immigration, minorities, LGBT, and the environment while being obsessed with political correctness to the extent that they import backwards values for the sake of multiculturalism. The Chinese see the Baiswa as ignorant and arrogant Westerners who pity the rest of the world and think they are saviors. Yeah, that's who your gatekeepers are. The Baiswa. Such lists are defined and redefined on a whim. Such efforts represent the very definition of censorship, in which restricted topics representing social and moral views rather than operational ones. For example, banning images of partially dressed art museum statues has nothing to do with ensuring accurate information. It has to do with ensuring accurate fucking history and statues, you frickin' brainlet. It represents a moral consideration that nudity is bad for society. Similarly, a user sharing documentary videos of threats of violence they have received represents standard journalistic practice, while social platforms that suspend users for such activity are exercising the powers of censorship and determining that such republication is not good for society. In short, censorship concerns itself with whether a particular communication is helpful or harmful to the cohesiveness of society and whether it aligns with the needs and desires of the elites. In contrast, gatekeeping in the broadest sense is not concerned with the societal impact of a narrative. It considers only whether the narrative is accurate and supported by available evidence. You got any citations on that? Because the last time I checked, Wikipedia was full of shit. Language, my friend. Language. Do not hurt their virgin ears. No, this is bullshit. Okay, because if you go on any fact-checking site these days, they're full of shit. Look at Snopes. Look at Snopes, for crying out loud. Literally, a left-winger and a right-winger can say the same thing. The right-winger will be called a big liar, pants on fire, and the left-winger will say mostly true or true. They're full of shit. It's a left-wing outlet. The fact-checkers are full. Who fact-checks the fact-checkers? Nobody. A leaked government watchdog report documenting extensive corruption by senior officials and including all relevant evidence might pass the gatekeeping test if it is determined to be an accurate document and the evidence supporting it is verified. Yeah, the problem with this is people have agendas. The media has an agenda. CNN told the public, the American public, that it was illegal to read the WikiLeaks when it was not. They lied. They weren't punished. Gatekeeping is censorship. In contrast, the report could still be stopped from publication through censorship due to the harm it would likely cause to governmental elites. By combining censorship with gatekeeping, social platforms have led to a public conflation of these distinct topics, driving the societal backlash against their fact-checking efforts and otherwise would likely enjoy much broader public support. Go to hell. You're a liar. You're a fool. Gatekeeping is censorship. Period. The truth would be telling everyone what's happening with a realistic viewpoint. That's what I try to do. I know I'm not the greatest at it. Maybe I'm not the best orator. Maybe I don't have a fancy British accent. Maybe I sound like a Yankee American cowboy. Yeehaw, motherfucker! But you know what? I'm actually trying to tell people the truth. Can you say the same, Imperial? Instead, social platforms must work on clearly distinguishing their efforts and establishing visible boundaries between them. Most importantly, they must work on the public messaging surrounding their efforts, drawing clear lines between their content enforcement rules and their quality improvement efforts. See, that's the problem. Censorship determines what people should not hear. Gatekeeping determines what's important enough for people to hear. It's the same thing! What you consider quality may be shit, and what you consider shit may be quality. In the end, both social platforms and society at large must recognize the clear distinction between the dangers of censorship and the benefits of gatekeeping. No, 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 no. I don't care how smart this guy thinks he is. I don't care about all his fancy credentials or the fact he lives in Washington, D.C. I don't give a shit. Gatekeeping is censorship. Censorship is censorship. Okay, because you have insane people with bias who cannot be trusted. Facts are no longer facts. We're living in a post-truth society where everyone is trying to spin a narrative. Gatekeeping is censorship. I'm sorry, Mr. NPC, but that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. How do you feel about gatekeeping? How do you feel about censorship? And do you agree with the author? Maybe I'm missing something here. Be sure to let me know. Just a reminder, but you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar for as low as $1. Doing so will give you access to Fight Club, a private Discord server. There are different tiers. Pick whichever one you want. There are also PayPal and Bitcoin options. Sharing the videos also helps, and there is my affiliate link. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.